Let's get ready to mock draft. Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Rock Draft Podcast. My name is Rod Morgan. I will serve as your host of these festivities. We hope to be coming at you about once a month with a rock and roll related topic where I will participate in a competition with some of my fellow 97.7 employees and just maybe a few other people. They will come on to battle me each week in a draft where we will pick a topic and go back and forth. And ultimately, who wins is your decision. We will have a poll for you to vote, but we will get there later. As I said, my name is Rod Morgan, but let's bring in the guest. I can't have a competition with myself. And if you're going to launch a podcast in cooperation with Classic Rock 97.7, a good person to have on the first ever episode is the boss man of Classic Rock 97.7, Brad King. You can hear him from 10 a.m. to 2 every Monday through Friday and on the weekends as well because he just loves being on the radio. He took time out to join us on the first ever episode of Rock Draft. Brad, welcome.
Rod, thank you for having me.
Are you excited about this opportunity to face off with me in rock and roll competition?
I am. I'm excited about the topic that we have. I think this is going to be fun. It was more challenging than I initially anticipated when we had discussed what the topic was going to be. Thought, oh yeah, that sounds fun. That sounds easy, and I had to do some digging for this one.
You were on to my devious plan already. If somebody's going to come on here and think that they can beat me, I'm not going to make it easy on them. I got to make it a little bit tricky. So each week when we come on and do an episode here, there will be a topic. Probably timely, maybe not timely, just whatever's on my mind. But I can promise you this, it will always be rock related. And for the first episode, some folks are going to graduate at the end of May. So why not yearbook quotes? Why not rock and roll song lyrics that could double as yearbook quotes? That was the crazy idea that hit me for this first ever episode. Brad, I want to start here with you. What kind of a yearbook quote guy were you when you were back signing yearbooks?
Yeah, we didn't in high school. We didn't do like the official. We didn't get to have the official yearbook quote. Like under our picture or whatever, which is kind of lame, but a lot of things about my high school were lame. So, um, yeah, my yearbook was filled, with a lot of the stay sweet. I got a lot of those from girls. Stay sweet, have a great summer. And then, the other, math class was fun. Geography was fun. Or it was usually one of those three. That's what ended up.
Do you have the person's name who will forever be etched in your memory because they were the first one to sign your crack? Did you get that on any yearbook that you had in either junior high or high school? I remember Aaron Ganshorn, big bright letters right there. I'm the first one to sign your crack.
You know what? That's funny. I'll have to go back and look. I do think somebody did that one year.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that was
I'll have
definitely
to
a
I'll have to
popular
dig
one.
out the old yearbooks. But yes, I do. Now that you say that, don't remember who it was. But yes, I do think that somebody. I kind of remember, handing the yearbook and I'm flipping to the middle and I signed your crack and put, with an arrow or whatever.
Let's hope that the yearbook quotes that you and I have come up with are a little more intelligent, a little more humorous, a little more actual advice, let's say, than I was the first one to sign your crack. Let me ask you that, Brad. Was there a theme that started popping into your head when you began searching for these quotes, or did you just kind of look to your favorite artists?
Yeah, I mean, I did include a lot of my favorite artists, um, but I tried to. I mean, I don't know how much of I don't think it matters. To give away my philosophy at this point. I tried to stay away from the real obvious cliche ones, you know, and I tried to kind of balance it out between good advice, just kind of somewhat funny maybe, and just kind of looking back.
I always kind of think about Mary Poppins when I'm thinking about advice, right? She has just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, right? And how I look at advice is just a spoonful of humor helps the advice go down, right? So that's definitely the thing that I thought about, right? I, like you as well, didn't want to take anything that was completely obvious, like I am not a huge Kiss guy, but I will just say right now, I did not want something as obvious as rock and roll all night, party every day. Like I tried to do a little bit better for my advice than that, Brad. If you do have Kiss, I apologize. I don't want to be making fun of you before we get there.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, also avoided the Beatles, All You Need Is Love, stuff like that. That's just super, super obvious and cliche. I wanted to stay away from.
There we go. Now there's certain artists that I definitely thought of first, right? I thought to myself, okay, let's go to Bob Dylan, considered one of the greatest writers in American rock and roll history. I definitely went to the Beatles, but you were right. There's a lot of Beatles advice where they're not like telling you about the thing. They're just straight up cheesy telling you the thing. So there was a lot of Beatles advice that I avoided there. I wanted to get some Pearl Jam advice because, like you said, your favorite bands, that's definitely my favorite band. But Eddie Vedder's not ever really that happy about anything. So I kind of avoided some advice from Pearl Jam because Eddie's always kind of sullen.
Yeah, that was the other thing that I was kind of running into as like my first three were pretty easy. I had the first two I had right off the bat. The third one I got pretty quickly. The last two were kind of a bit of a challenge. And I was running into problem with it seeming too down, too mournful. And I'm like, okay, I don't want it to be so and I don't know. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. But I was like at one point I thought, well, because I graduated high school in 1995. So I thought, well, it might be cool to get something from a song from 95. What might I have pulled if I was doing this back when I was graduating high school. But what was big in 95? Grunge. So it's all depressing. It's all this very,
Mm-hmm.
very down, Smashing Pumpkins, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots, Soundgarden,
I
it's
encountered the
all,
same exact thing when those guys weren't sullen and trying to tell you about how bad things were for them or how bad things might be. They were basically just talking about sex, right? Like it was just those were kind of the only two things that you could get with some of that, right? Like you mentioned
yeah.
STP. Either Scott Weiland was all sad or he was talking about how bad he wanted to go get you. You know what I mean? Like there was no in between with them. So I encountered the same problem. You will notice that my picks lean a little bit older. I looked upon my elders, as it were, for wisdom. But it's customary here on the Rock Draft to give the first pick to the guest. Brad, you will lead off. You and I will go back and forth. We'll try to put together a roster of 5 of our best yearbook quotes from a rock and roll song, and then ultimately it will be up to you, the listener, to decide who wins between Brad and I. So customary for the guest to go first. Brad, you lead us off.
All right. So I'm going to go for my first pick. It is my favorite artist, Tom Petty, but it is a line of his that I absolutely love. And I go back to, kind of all the time in my mind. And it's from the song Crawling Back to You. And the line is, most things I worry about never happen anyway. And I think is just it's just one of those lines that it's not direct advice. It's not telling you, hey, this is what you should do. But if you think about it, it is really good advice, and it's one of those things that I do go back to in my mind, like all the time, like, man, most things I worry about never happen anyway, and so when you get worked up about stuff, oh, this is going to happen, that's going to, most of the time it doesn't.
You are proving your Tom Petty bona fides here by pulling a song that wasn't necessarily one of his jukebox classics, right? I mean, Tom Petty
No.
has so many songs that all of us know all the words to. We've heard in karaoke many, many times, but you're pulling the good stuff there. What immediately popped into my head, and I'm totally jealous of you for this pick, I did not look deep enough into Tom Petty to find some great wisdom like that. I probably shouldn't be talking your picks up if I'm trying to beat you, but I'm being a gracious host here. The
I
immediate
could have, being a diehard, I mean, I could have easily done just 5 Tom Petty lines easily,
Sure. Well, thank you for not
but
doing
but I
that.
want I wanted to have some variety.
I appreciate that. Now, I thought immediately of a line that my father used to say to me, where he said, "Worrying is a lot like a rocking chair. Sure, it's something to do, but it doesn't really get you anywhere." Right. And that was immediately the line that popped into my head when you gave that Tom Petty line. I was like, just similar, great. Tom Petty even figured out a way to say it in a few fewer words. And that's why perhaps he made a bunch of money writing and recording rock songs, and I did not.
Exactly.
All right, let's go with my first pick. As I stated, this is a bit of a competition. I will admit I have a Beatles song, but because I was able to pull out of Brad in the beginning, he is not going to go to any Beatles lyrics. I don't feel that I need to go there. But there is one album that I'm pulling from that is a absolute stone cold classic, perhaps one of the greatest selling albums of all time. It appeared on the Billboard Hot 100 for the longest period of weeks any album ever has, and that's Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd, Time, written by Waters, Gilmore, Mason, and Wright. And the line specifically for me is, "You are young and life is long. And though there is time to kill today, and then one day you find 10 years have gone behind you, no one told you when to run." And what I absolutely love about that line is I thought about all of my yearbook quotes in the context of you're writing this to someone who is either under 18 in a junior high yearbook or someone who is just about to graduate and go into the world. And when you're 18, Brad, I don't want to speak for you. I'll speak for myself here. But when you're 18, you're full of piss and vinegar and you think that the world cannot stop you and you can absolutely do whatever you want. And the other thing that you tend to do is think that you have plenty of time. Oh, I've got plenty of time. I'm so young. I can get to that. I can get to that. And so I thought, this line from Pink Floyd is great advice. Don't put stuff off. Get cracking today.
I have one that is in that similar vein that will get you. But yeah, I mean it is very true. Especially coming out of high school, maybe you're going to college or you're going to your first full-time job. Maybe you're moving away, but you can conquer the world, and you think you have an eternity to do it.
Mm-hmm. And
So
time
okay,
catches up quickly. You're up, my friend. What do you got for number two?
my second choice. Now this one is I like this one because this is kind of more if you're kind of feeling more in a defiant mood, you didn't exactly love high school, maybe you didn't love the town or the area in general, and you just cannot wait to get out. It is Bruce Springsteen from Thunder Road. It's a town full of losers, and I'm pulling out of here to win.
That is awesome. Love that. Hope Bruce would make it onto this episode. I wasn't unable to land on a Bruce quote, so I'm so glad that you did. That's a good one. Thunder Road, too. Great Bruce album.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Have you seen the boss live ever? I caught him one time and I was amazed at how good he was. He was
Many
still in his
times.
late 60s when I caught him. Oh, you've seen him numerous times. Look at you. How young was he the first time you saw him?
First time I saw him was in 2000 on the first reunion tour with the E Street Band.
Ooh, okay.
So actually, no, it might have even been a little earlier than that. Yeah, it might have been like 90. I don't know. I'd
So
have
he,
to look it up. But it was like late 90s, maybe 2000,
but so he still
somewhere
had
around there.
he had all types of energy then. I mean, he was still at the top of his game when you got to see him.
He still is. Most recently saw him last year or 2 years ago when he was at the last time he was at Wrigley, and it was incredible.
Can't go wrong with the boss. And they say that maybe nobody's ever written ballads for the working man better than Bruce Springsteen. And it's always struck me as funny that, like, yeah, he's been doing that for years, but he hadn't been a working man for a long, long time. It's amazing that Bruce could still be in contact with all of us.
Even he says that. Even he jokes about that.
That's really good stuff. I love that. Listen, you're doing pretty well so far. You got Tom Petty, you got Bruce Springsteen. I mean, you're putting together a roster that I'm going to have some trouble with. So I need to go to a big heavy hitter. I need to go to a big fan favorite. So I'm going to go to my guys, the Doobie Brothers. I'm going to go to Michael McDonald level Doobie Brothers. We're going to go to the Minute by Minute album in 1978, and we're going to give you this, written by Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins. What a fool believes he sees, no wise man has the power to reason away. That simple. Don't waste your time dealing with fools. Foolish people will always believe foolish things. And if you continue arguing with foolish people, it turns out that you are the fool. And that, my friends, is why Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins are two of the most underrated songwriters in American history. Get yacht rock out of your head. Get the negative connotation about yacht rock out of your head. These guys were writing brilliant dimes like this all the time.
And also that makes me think of Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars. Who's the
Sure.
bigger fool, the fool or the fool who follows him?
We just got done with May the 4th, right? So that's a good timely reference there as well. I'm not as big in the Star Wars universe, so I'm glad that you could help bring in that demographic to this podcast for us there, Brad. Thank you. So I got Doobies, I got Pink Floyd, you got Boss, you got Tom Petty. We got heavy hitters so far. What's your number 3?
All right, another heavy hitter, the late great Ozzy Osbourne, from the song Road to Nowhere. Live for today and not tomorrow. It's still the road that never ends.
Nice. Nice. I kind of thought The Road That Never Ends would make this podcast, but I kind of thought it might be the Robert Earl Keen song. So I'm glad that we got some Ozzy Osbourne here.
That's also a very good song.
I like that Ozzy made it here, right? You wouldn't think that Ozzy, right, because of the connotation we have with him biting the heads off the bat and the Osbourne's reality show and him seeming a little out of it. But early in Ozzy's career, man, he was writing some bangers. You know what I mean? Like Black Sabbath and early Ozzy, he had a lot to say.
Yeah, well, and I mean, Road to Nowhere is mid '90s. So yeah, I mean, Ozzy. If you actually, I mean, read the lyrics to Crazy Train. They're actually pretty deep.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, Ozzy. Yes, because of that image, you don't think of that, of Ozzy being all that deep, but he really is.
And, it's also hard to get those Ozzy lyrics sometimes with that scorching Randy Rhoads guitar underneath you in Crazy Train. You know what I mean? You just kind of get a little sidetracked by that sometimes. And you're like, oh, man, Ozzy really was saying something cool there. So that's the problem with those fast songs sometimes, right? Like, that's another thing that I noticed about a lot of my songs. I didn't pick any one song that is like, is kind of is a real up-tempo song. I kind of pick songs that are a little bit more laid back. So, like, those lyrics really punch. But sometimes those lyrics that are hard to understand can be the deepest one. So I love that you pulled some Ozzy Osbourne out here. You're looking to get those metal fans to come to your list and vote for you, aren't you, Brad? I'm not represented by any metal on my list, so I'm not going to be getting any metal fans if they're coming for you. What I will do, though, for my third pick is I just explain how much I love yacht rock. Let's go to a band that would be mad at me if I called them yacht rock, but they basically
no, we might have. Oh no, this might be one of the same ones that I had on my list.
Oh, I'm glad that I went here now then and didn't save it for the end. Off of Steely Dan's landmark Pretzel Logic album in 1974, a song written by Donald Fagen and Walter Becker called Any Major Dude Will Tell You. This is the line. Any major dude with half a heart surely will tell you, my friend. Any minor world that breaks apart falls together again. I mean, I just thought that was a pretty cool way to describe don't worry too much about being on hard times. Things are probably going to work out again eventually. You're not going to be all the way down. There's ways to work out of any bad situation that you're in. I like that an awful lot. And I love Steely Dan. Donald Fagen, I'm sorry that I called you yacht rock, but let's be honest here. You inspired every single one of those bands that came after you and did all that stuff in the early 80s.
All right, so we don't have the same line, but I do have a Steely Dan on my list.
Nice. See, that's how great Steely Dan is, everybody out there. Bone up on your Steely Dan.
Excuse me. All right, well, I will save that one for last.
Nice. I was gonna say, yeah, you know I'm not gonna go to another Steely Dan song, so you got a free pick basically here.
Yeah. So for my fourth, going with the Rolling Stones, and this is the one that is excuse me. Sorry to Jimmy, who's gonna have to do a lot of editing with my coughing.
That's all right. Jimmy likes hard work.
So going with the Rolling Stones at number 4, and this one is kind of in the same vein as your Pink Floyd lyric. It's from the song Time Waits for No One. And the line is, time can tear down a building or destroy a woman's face. Hours are like diamonds. Don't let them waste.
That's a good one. That was a good one. That was one that popped up a little bit for me when I was looking through some Rolling Stones lines. I mean, I thought about you can't always get what you want, but if you try, sometimes you get what you need. That's a classic one there. I thought
Hmm.
I thought about maybe some lines from Teen Nervous Breakdown, right? Maybe some stuff from Ruby Tuesday. You know what I mean? There's some good hopeful lyrics in Ruby Tuesday, but that's a really good one there, Brad. What do you think it means to you? Because I think there's a couple of different interpretations there.
I really like hours are like diamonds, don't let them waste. Because I like we were talking about with your line from Pink Floyd. It is again, it's especially at that age, you think, oh, I've got an eternity to accomplish all I want. No, you don't. Like it's gonna go fast, kids. It is gonna go fast. It's gonna go in the blink of an eye. Oh, and not to get too deep on it, but I mean, obviously, some of us live a lot longer than others. So that short amount of time may be even more finite than you realize.
And I think the other thing that it does, and I love that you went deep there because I was going to have kind of a deep comment too, is equating hours to diamonds starts to give you that idea as an 18-year-old how important and how valuable you will think time is as you get older, right? Like you could literally, there's a certain point in your age where somebody offers you a free hour where you don't have to answer to kids or to your wife or to your job. I mean, that's a diamond to you right then and there. So that's the kind of line that you can keep in the back of your head and be like, hey, somebody told me when I was graduating that I really should start valuing these hours because sometimes they can be worth as much as diamonds.
And it's Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, credit to them. It's also a much cooler way of saying time is money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what we're after here. All right, I am going to go to my number 4. I have a Beatles lyric for number 5, but much like you're saving Steely Dan, I'll save Beatles because I know that you are not going to pull that one. So I'm going to probably what I might consider to be my most humorous line. I had certain themes I wanted to try to hit. I wanted to hit the theme of don't worry too much about disasters, right? So I got that taken care of with Steely Dan. I wanted to hit the theme of time. Time really is valuable. Got that. Wanted to do don't mess around with fools. Got that from the Doobies. But the other thing I wanted to make sure I gave some advice on is women, right? The opposite sex. There, Brad. That's going to be something that people are going to have to figure out. They're going to have to navigate for the rest of their days. So I thought to myself, who do I look to for great information about the opposite sex? And I landed on Daryl Hall and John Oates from their 1982 landmark album H2O and their song Maneater. And the line specifically, she's deadly, man. She could really leave you blind. Oh, she's beauty. It's beastly, but her fortune is within her mind.
I like it.
Good stuff from Hall & Oates there. I can't nearly do the singing justice the way great Daryl Hall can, or the piano playing the way the great John Oates can, but those guys gave me some good information about women. So I thought, you know what? That's what we're going to pass on as information for the opposite sex. Do you have anything on yours about information and dealing with women, Brad?
No, I don't. No, again, I just kind of was looking more overall at kind of the overall school experience and just kind of growing up in general. So it's my number 5, and this was probably the toughest one to land on. I had a whole bunch of different ones that I was kind of like, they're good. They weren't great. I didn't wasn't loving any of them. So ultimately I landed on this one from Steely Dan just because I thought, you know what, it's simple, it's basic, it's to the point. And again, this is kind of in the vein of, man, I am so happy to be out of here. It's Steely Dan, old school, and the line is just simply, I'm never going back to my old school.
Oh, I love it.
Done.
Listen, there's a lot of good nuggets in my old school for sure, but I'm never going back to my old school. It's pretty short, sweet, and to the point. So I can't say that I fault you for that one.
And I just thought, I'm like, if if it doesn't get pulled, that would look nice under the yearbook photo there, and you know, if the powers that be didn't censor it, that would look nice under the senior yearbook photo. Never going back to my old.
I think there's a very good chance that the powers that be at schools would have possibly a problem with that one, but you would definitely be a legend if you snuck that one by. Kind of like, were you a baseball card collector back in the day, Brad? Do you remember the
Oh yeah,
Billy Ripken card?
Billy Ripken. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that one snuck by the old good people at Upper Deck and made that card an absolute collector's item. Those that know, this isn't a baseball card podcast. This is a rock and roll podcast. Well, all right, Brad, we've got one pick left from me, and then we will kind of recap for everybody what we have and then direct them on how they can vote, and we will wrap up this first episode of the Rock Draft. But I got one pick left. I'm wearing their hoodie. I've got the Beatles anthology DVD set behind me right here. Anyone that is a dear friend of mine that is checking out this podcast, bless you, first off. And second of all, you probably know what I'm going to say to you right here. I've been giving this as advice ever since I heard the song as a young lad. And it comes from Lennon McCartney from the White Album in 1968. And it comes from Hey Jude. And the line is simply this. It is. For well you know that it's a fool who plays it cool by making his world a little colder. The movement you need is on your shoulders. I mean, I could have simply made it just the movement you need is on your shoulders, but I wanted to have that other part right before then because I think it's also good advice to don't be too cool for school. You know, somebody who's not too cool for school, somebody who's actually been called cheesy in his life, Paul McCartney. But you know what Paul McCartney has? A whole bunch of money, a whole bunch of Grammys, and is one of the most famous rock stars of all time. So maybe not being too cool for school might work out pretty well for you.
Yeah, again, I mean, you can't go wrong with Lennon McCartney. Like I said at the top, I too looked at Beatles songs, and I couldn't find one that really jumped out to me. That I thought was good. Not that I didn't think was good. Obviously, they're some of the greatest
I was gonna
lyricists of
say,
all time.
hot take, Brad down on the Beatles. That's what comes out in the first episode of Rock Draft.
And then I even tried because George Harrison is my favorite Beatle. So I even tried then looking specifically at George songs. I'm like, well, maybe I find a cool line from a George song. And I was really looking hard at All Things Must Pass, but I'm like, because I love that song. But I'm like,
Song.
man, everything in there. I'm like, it's even the hopeful lines are, there's a depressing tone to them, that just and like I said, I didn't want my list to feel like a downer, so
You definitely hit the nail on the head there. George Harrison is by far the most sullen Beatle, right? I mean, Ringo's just a happy-go-lucky, like, hey, I'm the drummer, I'm happy to be here. You know what I mean? John is just a little bit too sarcastic for his own good, right? Paul's just a little bit of a goody two shoes, a little cheesy. And then George is the one who's a little sullen, a little dark, got into some different stuff. You know what I mean? He was playing the
mhm.
sitar. You know what I mean? George was all open to all types of world religions and he got way into helping the people of Bangladesh. Like George was just ready, man. Like he was out there feeling the world. And so I looked at some George too. That's I love that you're bringing him up as an honorable mention because that's also something that we could do here, right? Something that you really, really desperately kind of wanted to put on your list but weren't able to. So you mentioned George Harrison. Is there anything else that you'd like to shout out here in that honorable mention?
No, not really. I did look. I did when doing kind of some research, and of course I was looking online for suggestions as well. And I have to shout out. I don't know who this kid is. I don't know where it was, but when I did a search, for rock and roll lyrics as yearbook quotes, it came up a picture of some kid's yearbook, and his quote underneath was, "I did it all for the nookie."
Nice.
And I'm
Nice.
like, man, I don't know if this is real or not, but like I want to believe it is. And kudos to you, son, for getting away with that in a yearbook somewhere, some year. I thought that was fantastic, and I'm like, and so that inspired me. Like, I wanted to see if I could find, a really silly line like that, and I couldn't come up with one good enough to live up to that legend.
Yeah, I if we were gonna allow rap songs to be into the rock draft, I think I could have come up with some very hilarious lines along the
Yeah,
lines of did it all for the nookie.
and I started thinking about that initially, and then I'm like, "Oh, no, wait, this is rock trap."
That's right. That's right. This is Rock Draft in cooperation with Classic Rock
Right.
97.7 Z. If you are listening to us from outside of that listening area by way of YouTube or Spotify, we absolutely appreciate that. We will be coming back sometime next month with another Rock Draft. But Brad, before we go, let's wrap up for everybody your picks. You don't have to give the whole line over again, but just give us your 5 artists and the song that contains the line for everybody.
So it's Tom Petty, Crawling Back to You, Bruce Springsteen, Thunder Road, Ozzy, Road to Nowhere, Rolling Stones, Time Waits for No One, and Steely Dan, Old School.
Excellent. And my 5 are Steely Dan as well. Any major dude will tell you. Doobie Brothers, What a Fool Believes. Beatles, Hey Jude. Pink Floyd, Time. And Hall & Oates, Man Eater. All right. I'm not
Hey,
sure about you, Brad, but I think possibly the smartest songwriters that you and I named this entire podcast are Daryl Hall and John Oates. All right. I mean, let's just be real here. Pop music is the hardest thing to write, right?
I have to point out, you've got a yacht rock vibe going
Oh,
on your
yeah.
list.
Oh yeah, I'm all in on the yacht rock. Shout out to our friends at the radio station, the Yachtly crew. They've been nice to us over the years. They do a lot of great stuff. And what it is for me, Brad, is that like when I was a kid, my dad brought me up on all the stuff from the 60s and the 70s that he liked, right? But at one point, he started aging out of music like we all do, right? And guess when he aged out? Right at the time that yacht rock was starting to take over. That really wasn't his thing, right? And then when I was coming up as a kid, I didn't start getting musically known until about 86, 87, right? That's Guns N' Roses, that's Poison, that's hair metal starting to take over, right? So all that was before me. Then I got caught up on all the classics, and now here I am at 40, and all this music from like 78 to 83, I didn't even know existed. So yes, you called me out. I've been on a big time yacht rock kick recently. That's why I'm always pushing you to get more yacht rock stuff into our playlist at 97.7.
Nothing wrong with yacht rock.
And speaking of 97.7, that is the only call to action that Brad and I have for you after this episode. On the Classic Rock 97.7 Facebook page, which people can find by searching what, Brad?
A Classic Rock 97.7.
And then our Facebook page will be right there, and you will see a poll that will exist on our Facebook page immediately after this episode comes out, and we will keep it up for a determinate amount of time until we figure out that I have won. Brad, I'm basically just telling you that I'm going to keep the poll up there until I get enough votes to say that I beat you. Is that fair?
Sure, yeah, why not?
No, that's not fair. We'll pull it down before we come back with another episode. We're going to try to come back in June. We're going to have another rock draft idea for you, and we're going to be joined by somebody else at the radio station. Brad, I'll give the final word to you. Any last things you want to say about the first episode of Rock Draft or your journey to come up with great rock and roll quotes?
Again, like I said, it was tougher than I thought it would be. It's when we talked about this topic, I thought, oh yeah, that's great idea. And I had one or two that popped in my head right away, and I'm like, oh, this will be easy. So it was very, in a way, again, excuse me, in a way, it was very similar to my time in high school, in that when the project is announced, I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to be easy. I'll ace this. And then, the night before it's due, I'm like, oh my God, I got to do what? Oh boy. And yeah, ended up taking a lot more work than I had initially anticipated, but it was a lot of fun. And I look forward to more episodes of Rock Draft. I think this is going to be a fun podcast for all of us to participate in, and hopefully for everybody to listen and watch and vote.
Thank you very much for taking time out to join us on this first episode of Rock Draft. Remember to vote for Brad's team or my team on our Facebook page. And also make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all of those good things on this podcast. Tell your friends about it. We hope to be able to grow and get these fun music competitions, as well as a little bit of reminiscing and a little bit of nostalgia. Nothing ever wrong with that. So until we come back with another episode of Rock Draft, I am Rod Morgan saying, have fun, because what else is there to do?